I'd like you to share your thoughts on how communities with high unemployment, and I think I mentioned to you that my district was the district with one of the highest number of open claims during the pandemic. So how are communities with high numbers of unemployment and job training voids being served, especially given there might be holes in the services that we are providing to them? And so, the specific part of that is, as I shared with you, I have a building in my district, an EDD building that's been closed for almost 7 years. And the services that are available through that facility have been co-located into other cities and areas outside of South LA. And it's caused major disruption for folks who want to see the state in their district, in their community, in their neighborhood available to them. So granted, many places were closed during the pandemic, but it's not really about that. So just wanted to get your thoughts on how in spaces like South LA, where there is a void of resources that people can see, how are you still working to make sure that constituents feel the support of the state, especially with issues that are really critical, like, unemployment claims, being able to get your benefits, being able to get help with job training skills, et cetera?
Thank you, Senator, for your question and also for the time that we were able to spend yesterday. So I'll take your question in two parts because there are two parts to it. So on the Crenshaw building, as you know, and I will state this for the record, EDD has been in quite a legal battle over this property for many years. This property was a lease to own, and when it was time to actually own, the building owner and his family fought that ownership piece of the contract. And so this has been in the courts for a while. The courts decided that the owners needed to hand over the deed and the title of this building to EDD, and they have also denied an appeal of that. So the good news is that it looks like this should be coming to an end soon. The not great news is that we still have not received the handover of the deed and title for that property, and that's the final piece. So once that is done, I look forward, to working with you and with EDD to assess the condition of that building so that we, can make fixes to it. My understanding is it's not in great shape right now. And then, of course, we would want to work with you on planning and thoughts about reoccupying that building and what that might look like and how that would best serve that community. On the broader question about areas with high unemployment and a lack of services, this is the worst possible situation, to have an area that is economically depressed with individuals who need jobs and where services are lacking. So that confluence of factors is very upsetting to me as labor secretary. And so one of my priorities is to work very closely with all of my teams here that work on workforce development. That includes the California Workforce Development Board, the Employment and Training Panel, the Workforce Services Branch. They are already, they come together, they talk about workforce strategy, and my commitment and my goal is to make sure that we are working very closely with our local communities to understand what their needs are and to invest training dollars and programs where they're needed most, and also in a way that integrates with our goals for developing, our healthcare economy, our climate sustainability economy, and all of these new and upcoming industries that we hope to bring into the state. And so that is my goal. And I look forward to working more with you on this issue because this is what makes us relevant or irrelevant, how well we can meet the needs of individuals such as those in your district.
Thank you. And you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. Yes, that building is janky, But yes, I've heard through the grapevine that the state has some money, so I'm going to cross my fingers that
Okay.
gets put on somebody's wish list. But ultimately, you're right. This is, how do we create effective connectivity between the services and the resources and the support that we offer as a state and to Californians who need it? So I look forward to supporting you when the time is right, and thank you so much. So I know some of my colleagues asked about buildings and sort of building surpluses that the state is managing. And so I just have a question following up on that. Most people know that I have this EDD building on 54th and Crenshaw, but there are some other buildings that are also state-owned in the district that have been deaccessioned or they're not being utilized, et cetera. One of them, I think, on Broadway and maybe 14th is looking at being turned into housing. So I'd just like to ask you if you could kind of share about your thoughts on, state presence vis-a-vis facilities in all of our communities and what that means to you. I recognize that we have a huge housing affordability challenge in Los Angeles, and yet, having a state-owned building turned into housing could infer to people that the state is not present in that particular part of town. And so if those things are happening, what's the state's role in maintaining a presence in the community? So if you're looking to change it into housing, how's the community involved and engaged, and the discussions around if they even want it and what that would look like, and if there are ideas to sort of open facilities back up to their original intended purpose, how does that happen? Because ultimately, I think constituents want to see us, and oftentimes a facility, right, with employees in there helping you, is the best way to visually exercise your presence. So given the fact that you will be responsible for all of these facilities and ultimately an ambassador to the state's presence in our districts across California, just want to know your thoughts on how we sort of maintain that.
Senator Kamlager, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it because, like you, I truly believe that having a proper balance and spread of both services and amenities is really important to underserved communities and those that need access to both the services that government provides, but also to the amenities like parks and housing that are so needed. And so two parts to this answer. On one end, the property on 15th and Broadway, slated surplus, and it was put out to bid for affordable housing. We are in support of, DGS provides the support and transactional arm to the affordable housing efforts that the Housing Community Development Department is moving forward. And that particular property has been awarded. So I'm happy to report since the last time we spoke about this, it's been awarded. The developer will be carrying the community engagement process to share with the community design plans, amenity plans for that particular site. And 15th and Broadway is definitely an area that needs a lot of housing. Now, balancing that with the very important statement that you made, which is services and access to government employees, and seeing us advocate for the community that we are providing those services for. Going to the property on Crenshaw, DGS is steadfast and supportive of EDD and will stand to partner with them to help recover that property. There have been some developments as of today that I'm very happy to report to you on, insofar that DGS is responsible for recovering that property and ensuring that the property owner, she and her team of lawyers, fulfilled their obligation to return that property to the state. We were notified this afternoon that the title company received some documents from the former owner today. And so We will be reviewing that for the completeness and then working with EDD on next steps and keeping your office apprised. So I think the way we look at this moving forward is ensuring there's a proper spread, especially in communities where there's, there's depressed or they have economic needs. The ability to be able to walk to some of these resources or take a short bus ride or a short drive to some of these offices is very important. And as we look at our surplus properties and the inventory that was submitted to DGS for review, I think it's important for my team to work with the departments to ensure that we are not leaving any gaps of services and areas, and where we are to bring that to the attention of the legislature and just ask you all who represent these great communities, this is what was submitted in terms of surplus. These are the other locations of government services in your community. Can you help us ensure that we are not missing any nook and cranny in your community so no one goes underrepresented?
Well, thank you for that response, and thank you for that bit of cautionary, optimistic news. I'm sure any constituents listening will be popping some bottles. So thank you for your commitment to the state